You know how Canada claims to be a climate leader?
Climate action is the path forward.
Well, I dug into just how many emissions all that oil and gas we export could potentially produce. The answer? More than all of Canada. We know fossil fuels are the main cause of climate change, and that includes coal, oil, and gas. The scientific consensus is deep and rapid cuts to emissions is the only way to avoid catastrophe. The federal government does track our national emissions every year, but that's only what's produced inside our borders, which isn't exactly the full story. Here's what I mean. Canada reported 708 megatons of greenhouse gas emissions in 2022. Think of that like the same as the emissions from more than 216 million cars. Now, a lot of those emissions we report are from the production and the burning of fossil fuels here, but we're also a major exporter of oil and gas. Now, in fairness, that's in line with the international standards set by the United Nations. But that also means Canada doesn't track the full scope of emissions that come from its oil and gas products. So I asked an international research project called Climate Action Tracker to share their analysis of Canada's estimated exported emissions. What they found was that if all of the oil and gas Canada exported in 2022 was burned, that could have released an estimated 939 megatons of carbon dioxide. That's equal to the emissions from 287 million cars, or about 13 times what the entire Canadian agriculture sector emitted in that same year. Another way to look at it, those emissions are about 1.3 times our country's national emissions. We asked the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers to respond to that. They said their oil and gas can help lower global emissions because it's an alternative to fuels like coal. But climate advocates say that doesn't go far enough. The Canadian government says it is always looking for ways to better measure its emissions.